Spirea. I know. If you're like many folks, you think of them for their workhorse attributes. They are durable, drought-tolerant, deer-resistant, disease-resistant. They will tolerate alkaline and clay soil, plus they have colorful foliage and flowers that pollinators love. But there's more to love about Spirea than even all of these stellar qualities. Did you know that Spirea has been used in traditional medicine? It's not surprising. Herbal remedies are the oldest form of medicinal treatment. In fact, the earliest printed English mention of an herbal is from a page imprinted by a fellow called Richard Banks from around 1525, which reads, sometimes called Banks's Herbal, it basically says, here's how to use the properties of plants to treat sickness. We'll just call it an herbal. Then in 1545, a fella named John Gerard was born, and in his adulthood became a barber surgeon. In the Middle Ages, surgery was seldom conducted by physicians, but instead by barbers, who, possessing razors for their trade, were called upon for numerous tasks, ranging from cutting hair to amputating limbs. Actual physicians couldn't be bothered with surgery and mostly observed and offered consulting, but otherwise often chose academia or working in universities. But I digress. When he was 32, John Gerard, the barber surgeon, was appointed superintendent of the gardens of Lord Burleigh at the Strand in London. Later, he was appointed as the curator of the Physic Garden of the College of Physicians of London. 20 years later, he published The Herbal, or General Natural History of Plants. It's one of the most quoted botanical works ever published. In fact, the Bible is the only published text to have remained constantly in print for as long as the 1392-page Herbal. You might be asking at this point, why are we talking about this guy and what does it have to do with Spirea? Well, I'm glad you asked. Although Gerard's text wasn't always accurate, it did correctly identify the medicinal properties of Filipendula ulmaria, a species at the time classified in the genus Spirea. When acetylsalicylic acid was first isolated from the plant, we got one of the safest, most effective medications on the planet, aspirin. The word aspirin was coined by adding A to the sphere in Spirea ulmaria, which contains salicylic acid from which the drug aspirin can be synthesized. Now, this doesn't mean eating a paste of your backyard Spirea will cure a headache, and we under no circumstances recommend ingesting your Spirea shrubs. But Native American people have had various medicinal uses for local Spirea species. Spirea betchifolia has been used for abdominal pain and made into tea, although we under no circumstances recommend drinking a tea made from your Spirea either. And the Blackfoot used Spirea splendens root in an enema to treat venereal conditions. Of course, we under no circumstances recommend, well, you get the picture. Spirea is one of those shrubs where the botanical and the common names sound the same, but they're spelled just a bit differently. Commonly known as meadowsweets or steeplebushes, Spirea is a genus of about 80 to 100 species of shrubs in the Rosaceae, or rose family, although just a few are commonly grown as ornamental shrubs. Some are native to the northern hemisphere, but most types are found in Eastern Asia. Spirea are used as garden and landscape plants for their showy clusters of dense flowers and colorful foliage. Some species bloom in the spring and others in midsummer. Here are a few of the Spirea you can see in North American gardens and landscapes. Spirea betchifolia, or birchleaf Spirea, is native to Northeast Asia, south to Japan. Glow Girl is an award-winning birchleaf Spirea with white spring flowers and golden foliage that turns dark orange in the fall. Spirea cantaniensis is one of a few species that's also called bridal wreath. Also called Reeves Spirea, it's native to southeast China and features arched branches that are covered with white flower bunches in spring. A fast-growing Spirea, give it a good prune as soon as it finishes flowering. Spirea japonica, or Japanese Spirea, is native to Japan and China and blooms in spring with flowers that range from pink, purple to red. Cultivars include double play doozy, double play candy corn, and double play gold. Spirea media is native to Eastern Europe and Northeastern Asia, with white flowers that bloom in late spring. This species blooms on old wood, so it would need to be pruned lightly or shaped immediately after flowering. Double play blue kazoo is a beautiful example, with foliage that has a blue tinge throughout the season and transitions to red in fall. Spirea niponica, or snow mound spirea, is native to Japan and blooms in the late spring, a bit later than other white-flowered spirea. It produces clusters of white, small flowers that cover the limbs like a mound of snow. To extend the flowering on this spirea, give it a light shearing as soon as the spring bloom begins to fade. And then there are hybrid cultivars, like double play Big Bang, with massive big pink flowers and bright yellow foliage. Most spirea have a naturally rounded habit without pruning, but if you want, you can give them a light prune in midsummer to encourage new growth, and those that bloom on new wood might even present you with a second round of flowers. Double play doozy spirea, however, doesn't need to be pruned for rebloom. Let's talk about why that is. You see, flowering plants have one goal, that is to make and disperse seeds. Once they've completed their bloom cycle and set seed, they've accomplished their goal and the flowering starts to wind down for the season. With many conventional single blooming plants, you can deadhead the flowers to trick the plant into thinking it hasn't dispersed seeds, and it will generally keep blooming. But double play doozy doesn't set seed, so it doesn't get the message to finish its blooming cycle. It just continues putting all of its energy into creating wave after wave of red-pink flowers from early summer through frost. No deadheading required for a fabulous color display. What I love about the Double Play Spirea series is that they, without complaints or any special attention, provide ever-changing color to gardens from spring to frost. Double Play Candy Corn Spirea has bright red emerging foliage in spring that shifts to yellow, then blazing orange in the fall. Bright purple summer flowers pop against the vibrant leaf color. And our newest Spirea, Double Play Dolly, has foliage that flushes orange-red before transitioning to bright chartreuse yellow. Purple summer flowers complete this cheerful color combination. The Double Play Spirea series is also nice and compact, maxing out at just 3 feet tall and wide. Another thing I love about Spirea? They are all very deer resistant. Spirea like to be sited in full sun for optimum color, but part shade is okay too, and honestly, the hotter your climate, the more shade they'll appreciate. They're super cold hardy, and once established, they're quite tolerant of drought. So basically, they're pretty cool with most anything. And that's the end of our story. I hope you liked this little foray into the history of Spirea and that it's encouraged you to try a fabulous, headache-free, proven winner's color choice Spirea in your garden.